All right, what's up, everybody? Sean here with another fitness journey update. Just the last one, if you happen to watch that one for week 11, this one is going to be slightly different just given the situation. So, week 12 for my fitness journey happened on between June 22nd and June 28th, 2025. So, again, keeping up with current events, obviously, this being released well after the fact. June 22nd at about 3 a.m. Middle Eastern time is when the United States conducted the strikes against Iran. And that obviously changed the entire equation for what was going on. Up to that point, I mentioned before that I'm military deployed in that area. It was a lot of watch and wait and see exactly what happened, a lot of preparation. During week 11, towards the end of it, there was measures taken to shut down gym, to restrict movements, large gathering. So it really started to begin and disrupt the normal operations. Week 12 continued that, especially in the. I'm recording this right now on the 28th, and I'm not going to release this just like with the week 11 video until well after the fact, just for security concerns. So once everything is done and there's limited to no chance of anything sparking back up, that's when this will actually be released. So this will be into the future from this perspective when you'll be viewing this. Okay, this one is going to be quite a bit different because with the fitness journey for this week, given the stress level, the 14-hour days, the carrying 40 pounds of body armor everywhere we went for the entire duration, the fact that if we're wearing anything, it's military uniform with the body armor. So no running outside, no gyms to do anything. It really impacted the regular schedule. With the increased level of stress, I decided that I was going to take the opportunity to just bypass alternative day fasting. Not so much because alternative day fasting tends to be stressful. I've gotten pretty used to it. It was more so because I enjoy food, and it was just a little bit of a stress relief to be able to know that I had something to eat each day. On top of that, the long hours started to wear down on me, especially towards the end of week 11, well into beginning of week 12. So I figured the extra calories will keep me going. Along with that, I did mention previously that I was looking at potentially starting to take creatine as a supplement to get past some of the plateaus that I've been having. So I wanted to experiment with that. And I figured if I was going to eat every day anyways, I would essentially do a creatine loading phase where I take consider the regular 3 to 5 grams of creatine each day, take 20 grams over 4 different sessions with breakfast, after breakfast, before lunch, etc. 4 times 5 grams each throughout the day to get all of the creatine loaded into the body over the 7 day period. So at this point, I have one more day. I'll do it on Sunday on week 13. And then my loading phase will be over. And then I will be just doing the maintenance of taking 5 grams of creatine per day. And it works out pretty good because essentially the first half, the first 3 months of the fitness journey was all natural. So not taking any kind of supplements. And then I can compare how I feel going forward for the last 3 months of this deployment, see if creatine does make a significant impact at all. So, with that, daily exercise really is going to be non existent for week 12 here, with the exception of the last 2 days here. So, Friday and Saturday, we were able to actually run outside in the gym, outside the gym. We removed the restriction where we had to wear body armor all the time, so we can actually run around in gym clothes. Gyms opened up on Saturday, so I was able to get there in the morning and start lifting weights again. So starting week 13, it looks like if all things hold, that we'll be back to normal. And I'm going to essentially reset to where I was for the first instance doing the bicep curls, doing the same exercises. The only difference this time is that now I'm taking creatine with it. I'm expecting that I'll probably end up going backwards a little bit just because I've lost an entire week of doing any kind of physical strength training exercises. But hopefully, it doesn't take me very long to get back to where I was week 10 or so. Okay, so with that, it's going to focus primarily on some of the meals. And then at the end, you can see where I left off. So, beginning of week 12 here for my fitness journey, foods that I had, again, try to focus heavily on protein, try to minimize the amount of muscle loss by not going to the gym. So, keeping in with the eggs, the chicken breast, salmon, eating a lot of eggs. I really cut out a lot of the grains just because grains tend to sit in the stomach for long periods of time. There's conflicting reports out there of how good grains are for you. I've decided at this point I'm essentially going to make a minimum and focus on getting the nutrients that you would normally get from grain through other sources like fruits and vegetables. Fruits being a lot of the vitamins that you might get from some of the healthier grains, vegetables getting in a lot of the fiber that you would get from grains, so on and so forth. So as you can see here, a lot of different food. Took advantage of the fact that, again, this was the day when everything kicked off and wanted to have a little bit of enjoyment of my meals and got some peach cobbler at the end of the day. Had some decent food there with some salmon. But for the most part, other than the heightened level of security, it was a pretty normal day. At the end, day 2, so you can see here only 2 meals. Breakfast was pretty normal, again, other than the fact that this would have normally been a fasting day. Tried again to load up on protein, even throwing in some tuna in there with a salad at lunch, but no dinner. That's because that most of the time it would normally be dinner, and then most of the night in bunkers, because that's when the attacks were going through to Al Udeid. I'm not there, but we also had alerts here as well. Day 3, again, it was a long night on that day 2. So wanted to load up with some healthy food to keep pushing with the energy. So got myself one of the breakfast tacos. I got some fish, got plenty of fruits in there to include blueberries, both for breakfast and for dinner. It did happen to be Wing Wednesday. Definitely enjoyed getting some wings there. It's one of those comfort foods to really relieve some of that stress. By day 4, I think this is right around the time where the potential for the peace treaties were coming out. So things slowed down a little bit, but we're still actively monitoring the situation. Had a lot of meetings, had a lot of different planning that we are doing. Long hours still being worked. So this was another day where I ended up having to miss one of the meals just because of keeping an active look on the situation. But other than that, still having high levels of protein. Did get a little bit of grains in this one with some rice, but really no fruit. And then, so I want to go into this as well. Part of the reason why I didn't eat so much on this one as well is because my body, I think, is shifted a little bit with the alternate day fasting. So eating every day, I'm really not hungry. When it comes to eating 3 meals a day, sometimes I would have to force myself to get to 3 meals a day. In this case, because I was working, I just didn't stop for lunch, and then I just continued on, and I was just fine. Day 5. So this is when it's been a couple days after the ceasefire. Things were starting to get back to normal. Everything was still essentially closed, but we started having talks about things coming open again, the gym. With that, they had a little bit. With that one, we didn't really have any major changes yet. Big changes came in day 6 of this week. But you can see trying to focus on the high protein still, the fish, the eggs. Should have had another fish in there for the salmon for dinner. But again, trying to just maintain the healthy diet and keep pushing as I go forward. Day 6, this was a day we were able to actually run outside, and to celebrate, I got a little bit of peach cobbler and some ice cream, which I didn't write it on the list here. But again, was able to actually go out run. So I decided to eat a little bit more, especially for the dinner there with the ice cream. Didn't necessarily care that I was going to be extra calories because I was able to go and celebrate and do a run around the base. And then day 7, that's where I'm at today. Again, today was another day, even though it's slow, we stopped doing the long shifts. Everything is actually a day off today, but not really hungry at this point. So I had a fairly large breakfast there with a breakfast burrito, an avocado, some fruit, yogurt, those type of things. Tried to throw in a bunch of additional protein for lunch. This was a day where I was actually able to get into the gym and start weightlifting again. So wanted to make sure I had a decent amount of protein in my diet. But come dinner time, was not really hungry. I just had minimal type of stuff to eat to take with the creatine to help with the absorption. So with that, again, this is information is a little bit different than the regular week to week, but as you can see, I still wanted to record this well after the fact so that when we come back and these are released several weeks from now, you could still come back and look at the fitness journey and see how real world stuff can impact even the best plans. Not much difference, surprisingly, from the previous week to this week when you look at the body composition. You might see a little bit more on the arms. I think there's a little bit more tone there, not necessarily tone, but effects from the creatine filling up the muscles with more water. So making them slightly larger, stand out a little bit more. But in general, you can see that I gained about 3.3 pounds. Again, part of that is water weight associated with the creatine. Other stuff, it's also because I wasn't able to go and work out except for the last couple days here. Able to run on Thursday or Friday and Saturday. Able to work out in the gym on Saturday. Also had the 14 hours a day, really to sleep. Talked about the creatine load phase, and then I paused the alternative to fasting. So overall, I think I'm actually happy given the situation of only gaining 3 pounds, where some of that is probably related to the creatine loading as well. But we will see where the following weeks end up coming and where it puts me. With that's all I have, and I'll see you in the next video.